Welcome to Mishna study, Masechet Peah, Perek Chet, Mishna Vav. Over here in this Mishnah, we're going to speak about if a person wants to save some Ma'aser Ani for a relative. Is he allowed to do so? How much is he allowed to save? And let's discuss. We'll read through the Mishnah first, and we'll explain. Midah zo ha'amura b'kohanim u'b'leviim u'b'Yisrael. Haya masil, noten mechesa v'notel mechesa. Haya lo devar mu'at. Right, so everything we spoke about in last Mishnah, the amounts that you need to give, this applies to Kohanim, Leviyim, Israel. It doesn't matter who's giving out the Ma'aser Ani. It's an obligation to give the appropriate shudim that we mentioned to any Ani that comes by. Now, if a person wanted to save, meaning what? He has relatives that are poor, that could use his help, and he has Ma'aser Ani to give. So the Mishnah over here says, if he wants to save for his relatives, he's allowed to save half, and then he has to give out the other half to the Aniyim in the appropriate shudim that we mentioned, right? Everyone gets, the kav hitim, hatzi kav hita, the kav se'orim, and so on and so forth, right? So that's basically what the Mishnah is saying over here. He could keep half for his relatives that are poor, and he has to give out the other half to the rest of the Aniyim. Now, let's say he has very little. Is he still allowed to go ahead and save for his relatives? So the Mishnah over here says, one is yes, he's still allowed to save half for his relatives, and the balance half, what does he do with that? It could be now that he enters into a scenario where now that he's saved half for his relatives, he's not going to have enough to give out the appropriate measurements that we mentioned in last Mishnah. So what does he do? We said we're not allowed to give out less than those shiurim, those amounts. Now he has less than that. What does he do? So the Mishnah says, "Noten lifnehem," you place it in front of them, and they split it up amongst them. You can't give less than the appropriate amount, the shi'ura katsuv that we mentioned. So therefore, you put it in front of them, and each of the old aniyim together will split it up equally, right? But the point over here also important to mention is that, yes, he's still allowed to go ahead and even though he knows he's not going to have the appropriate amount, once he gives half to his family, he's still allowed to go ahead and take half for his family first, and the balance he splits up between the rest of the aniyim, split up amongst themselves.